My name is Janine Okafor. I'm 34 years old, and last October, I was sitting at my desk in Charlotte, North Carolina. My desk. In the clinic with my name on the door. I had a stethoscope around my neck and a stack of new hire applications in my hand. And that's when I saw her name. Well, not her real name. She'd changed it. But the handwriting was the same. The birthday was the same. And when I pulled up the resume, the education section had a gap the size of a canyon. No medical degree. No residency. No license. My little sister, Amara, the one my parents spent $120,000 to send to Johns Hopkins, was applying to answer phones at my clinic. She didn't know it was mine, but I'll get to that. Before we get into this, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where you are right now. Now, let me take you back to 2003, to a kitchen in Charlotte that smelled like jollof rice and bleach, and the last time my mother ever pinned her church brooch to my collar instead of Amara's. My parents are Victor and Grace Okafor. My father worked maintenance at Carolina's Medical Center. 31 years. Same hospital, same floor buffer, same locker. He came home every night smelling like industrial cleaner and Bengay. My mother was a home health aide. She worked 10-hour shifts bathing other people's parents so she could come home and make sure her own children were going somewhere. They valued one thing above everything: achievement. Not kindness, not effort, achievement. The kind you can brag about at church. And Amara gave them plenty to brag about. Amara is 2 years younger than me. She came out of the womb performing. Honor roll by 3rd grade, science fair winner by 5th. She had this way of walking into a room and making the air rearrange itself around her. Teachers loved her. Aunties loved her. My parents didn't just love her, they invested in her. I was the rough draft. Amara was the final version. She looked at me the way you look at a placeholder, something temporary that hadn't been cleared off the table yet. Here's the first memory. September 2003. I was 12. My father came to career day at my school. He wore his good shirt, the blue one with the collar. I'd asked him to come because we were supposed to talk about what we wanted to be when we grew up. I told the class I wanted to be a nurse. I'd been playing doctor since I was 5. I had a toy stethoscope I carried everywhere, the plastic kind from the drugstore. It was pink and the tubing was cracked, but I loved that thing. My father smiled. A real smile. Not the polite one he used at church. A real one. He leaned over and whispered, "That's my girl." I held on to those 3 words for years. But then Amara's teacher stopped him in the hallway on the way out. She said Amara had tested into the gifted program. She said the word exceptional. My father's whole body changed. His shoulders went back. His chin went up. He shook that teacher's hand with both of his. He didn't say another word about my career day presentation. Not that night, not ever. That was the flicker. That was the almost. He almost saw me that day. But Amara's light was just a little brighter. And in my family, there was only room for one spotlight. Second memory. June 2005. I was 14. I'd made the honor roll for the first time. Not the gifted honor roll, the regular one. But I'd worked for it. I'd stayed up until midnight 3 nights a week. My eyes burned by Thursday every week. But I did it. I brought the certificate home and put it on the kitchen counter, right next to the fruit bowl, where she'd see it. The kitchen smelled like plantain and palm oil. My mother was frying dodo for dinner. The oil was popping. She had her apron on, the yellow one with the stain she could never get out. She glanced at it. Didn't pick it up. Didn't even turn the burner down. "That's nice, Janine." That was it. "That's nice, Janine." 3 words. Same tone she used when I told her the mail had come. Same tone she used when I said it might rain. 2 weeks later, Amara won a regional science competition. My mother had the trophy on the mantle by dinner. She called 3 relatives in Nigeria that night. 3. I could hear her through the wall, laughing, telling the story again and again. Each time she added a new detail. Each time Amara sounded more extraordinary. Nobody called anyone about my honor roll. I stopped putting my certificates on the counter after that. I kept them in a shoebox under my bed. A Nike shoebox from shoes I'd outgrown. I still have that box. Third memory. December 2007. Christmas dinner. I was 16. The whole family was there. Uncle Emeka, Aunt Chioma, cousins from Raleigh. Every Christmas was the same. My mother would go around the table and have everyone share what they'd accomplished that year. It was like a performance review disguised as a prayer meeting. Amara talked for 4 minutes about her AP classes and her early acceptance to a summer program at Duke. 4 minutes. Everyone clapped. My father said, "This one will be a doctor." When it got to me, I said I'd been volunteering at a free clinic on Saturday mornings. I said I wanted to study nursing. My mother smiled. But it was the wrong smile, the tight one. "Nursing is fine," she said. "But let's not compare, okay?" She said that in front of everyone. Let's not compare. As if me even mentioning my own life in the same room as Amara's was somehow rude. I didn't say anything. I ate my jollof rice, I helped wash the dishes, and I stopped talking about nursing at family dinners. That's what I did. I got quiet. I got small. I took my little dreams and folded them up and put them in my pocket where nobody could step on them. But I kept volunteering at that clinic every Saturday. I kept studying. I kept going. Not because anyone noticed, because something inside me wouldn't stop. What I didn't know was that the quiet would save me. And the thing my family dismissed, nursing, would become the thing that built everything. But what happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. Spring 2016. I was 25. Something shifted in my family. Or I thought it did. Amara started calling me more. Once a week, then twice. She asked about my classes. I was finishing my associate degree at Central Piedmont Community College. She asked about my clinicals. She asked what it was like to work with real patients. She asked what stethoscopes sound like when you first put them on. That one got me. That felt real. I thought she was finally interested. I thought maybe she was growing up. Maybe the distance between us was just a phase, something we'd look back on and laugh about. Sisters, right? My mother called me on a Tuesday. She said, "Your father and I are proud of both our girls." Both. She'd never said both before. I replayed that sentence in my head for a week. I played it while I drove to class, while I walked Biscuit, while I fell asleep. Both our girls. Both. So I opened up. I told Amara about my grades. I told her I was applying to transfer to a 4-year nursing program. I told her I needed financial help and I was going to ask Mom and Dad. I told her I was scared to ask. She said, "Just be honest with them. They'll help. You're their daughter too." I told her everything. She wasn't connecting. She was gathering ammunition. Here's what happened. I sat down with my parents in May 2016 at the kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg my father never fixed. I had a folder with my transcripts, my GPA, my clinical evaluations. I had a budget spreadsheet I'd made myself, I needed about $40,000 total. I told them I'd cover half with work and loans. I just needed help with the other half. My father wouldn't look at me. My mother did the talking. Janine, we can't afford it. We just can't. With Amara's tuition and the house payments, there's nothing left. I said okay. I said I understood. I went home and cried in my car for 20 minutes, but I didn't argue because I believed them. 8 months later, I found out the truth. Uncle Emeka told me. He didn't mean to. He mentioned something about your parents' loan paperwork at a family cookout. I asked what he meant. He went quiet. Then he told me. My parents had taken out $120,000 in federal and private loans. For Amara. For Johns Hopkins. $120,000. They didn't have nothing left. They had nothing left because they gave it all to her. I called my mother that night. I didn't yell. I couldn't yell. My voice was shaking too hard. You told me there was no money. You took out $120,000 for Amara. There was a long pause. I could hear the TV in the background. Wheel of Fortune. I'll never forget that sound. Then she said it. Amara has more potential. We had to make a choice. 9 words. That's all it took to break something that had been cracking my whole life. I fought back. I did everything right. I called my father 14 times in 9 days. He answered twice. Both times he said, "Your mother and I discussed this." Then he hung up. I sent 6 emails. I attached my transcripts. I attached my clinical evaluations. I attached a letter from my program director saying I was in the top 5% of my cohort. Every email, read receipts on. Not one reply. I wrote a 4-page letter on lined notebook paper. I mailed it priority. It cost me $7.35. It came back 10 days later, unopened. I recognized my mother's handwriting on the envelope. She'd written, "Return to sender," in her church cursive. Uncle Emeka tried. He called my father. My father told him to mind his business. Then he stopped answering Emeka's calls too. 14 calls, 6 emails, 1 letter. All blocked, all returned, all ignored. I sat with that for a long time. And here's what I understood. Finally, clearly, like the lights coming on in a room you've been sitting in for years. My parents hadn't chosen Amara over me in 2016. They'd been choosing her since I was 12 years old. Since career day, since the science fair, since every Christmas dinner where my name was a footnote and hers was the headline. Amara didn't make them choose. She just gave them permission to stop pretending. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment. Studio apartment on West Boulevard. $460 a month. The carpet smelled like someone else's cigarettes. Biscuit was asleep in my lap. He was 3 then. I'd just adopted him from the shelter off Nations Ford Road. I had my stethoscope in my hand. The real one. The second-hand one Dee had given me on my first day of clinicals. Engraved on the bell, "Listen first." I held it up to the lamp. The metal caught the light. I had $87 in my checking account. I had a beagle in my lap. I had a stethoscope that wasn't even mine, and I had nothing else. If you've ever been in a situation where the people who were supposed to love you became the ones you had to outgrow, drop A in the comments. And if you think my parents are going to regret this, type karma. She didn't just lie about me once. She'd been running this play for years. The first thing that happened was Dee. Dolores Washington. Everyone called her Dee. She was 63, retired ER nurse. She ran the nursing program at Central Piedmont like it was a boot camp and a church at the same time. Silver braids, bifocals on a beaded chain, hands that had started more IVs than she could count, voice like someone who'd seen everything and was surprised by nothing. She found me crying in the skills lab one morning. I'd come in early because I couldn't sleep. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just sat down next to me and waited. When I told her, all of it, she was quiet for about 10 seconds. Then she said 5 words. "You don't need their nothing." I blinked. "They're nothing, baby. That's what they gave you. And you've been carrying it around like it weighs something. Put it down." I didn't put it down right away, but I heard her. Dee became my family. She didn't replace my mother. Nobody could do that. But she filled a space that had been empty so long I'd forgotten it was there. Now here's the grind, because there was a grind. I finished my associate degree in August 2016, top of my cohort. I walked across that stage, and Uncle Emeka was in the 3rd row. He was the only Okafor there. He brought a disposable camera. The photos came out blurry. I have every single one. I got a job as a floor nurse at Atrium Health. Starting salary, $42,600. I worked nights, 12-hour shifts, 3 on, 4 off. Then I picked up overtime whenever I could, time and a half. I needed every cent. My routine looked like this. Up at 5:15, walk Biscuit around the apartment complex. 1 lap, past the dumpsters that always smelled wrong, past the parking lot where someone's car alarm went off every morning at 5:40 like clockwork. Pack my lunch, usually leftovers or a peanut butter sandwich on the cheap bread, the kind that sticks to the roof of your mouth. Drive to the hospital by 6:30. Clock in. 12 hours on my feet. Vitals, meds, charting, codes, the beeping that never stops. Come home. Heat up whatever was in the fridge. Eat standing at the counter, because if I sat down, I wouldn't get back up. Study for my BSN program until midnight, sometimes 1 in the morning. Sleep. Do it again. I ate a lot of rotisserie chicken that year. From the Kroger on South Boulevard. $7.49. I could stretch 1 chicken into 3 meals if I made rice. Monday, chicken and rice. Tuesday, chicken soup from the bones. Wednesday, the last scraps mixed into fried rice with whatever vegetables were about to go bad. I got creative. I had to. There was one night, November, cold. I was eating leftover soup at the counter, standing. Biscuit was sitting next to me, looking up with those eyes, waiting for something to drop. The apartment was quiet. No TV, no music, just the hum of the refrigerator and a beagle breathing. I thought about calling my mother, just to hear her voice. Not to talk about the money, not to fight, just to hear someone say my name the way a mother says it. I didn't call. I lost 11 pounds in 4 months. Not on purpose. I just forgot to eat on the long shifts. My scrubs started hanging off me. Dee noticed before I did. She started leaving Tupperware containers in my locker. Oxtail stew, collard greens, cornbread wrapped in foil. She never said anything about it. They were just there. I never asked. She never explained. That was our deal. I wore my stethoscope every shift, the one she gave me. Listen first. It became my armor. When I put it on, I wasn't the girl whose parents chose her sister. I was Nurse Okafor. And Nurse Okafor didn't have time to be sad. I finished my BSN in 2018. Then I started my nurse practitioner program, part-time, while working full-time, while paying rent, while feeding Biscuit. I was tired in a way that lived in my bones. That's when I met Marcus. Marcus Tate, 36, high school basketball coach at West Mecklenburg. Also ran a youth mentoring program on weekends. We met at a community health fair in the parking lot of a church on Beatty's Ford Road. I was doing free blood pressure checks. He was handing out water bottles. He noticed I'd been there 6 hours and hadn't eaten. He came back 20 minutes later with a chicken biscuit from Bojangles and a coffee. I didn't tell him how I took my coffee. He already knew. 2 sugars, splash of cream. He'd watched me make one that morning. That's who Marcus was. He noticed. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't ask about my family. He just kept showing up. Tuesday dinners, Saturday morning walks with Biscuit. He'd sit at my kitchen table grading game film while I studied pharmacology. One night I told him the whole story, all of it. The money, the letter, the 14 calls. He didn't say much. Then he said 4 words. "You deserved better, Janine." That was enough. The milestones came. Slow at first, then faster. I passed my nurse practitioner boards on the first attempt. Score? 682. You need 500. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the testing center and held my stethoscope against my chest. I called Dee. She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She took me out for catfish that night. She wore her good earrings, the gold ones she saved for important things. She ordered sweet tea and said, "I'm having dessert and nobody can stop me." I started working at a family practice clinic in East Charlotte. Salary? $89,000. First time in my life I had a savings account with more than $300 in it. I set up auto deposit. $50 every paycheck. Then $100. Then $200. I watched that number grow like it was proof I was real. Marcus and I moved in together that year. A 2-bedroom apartment in Plaza Midwood. Biscuit got his own corner. A dog bed Marcus bought that was way too big. Biscuit loved it. He'd spread out like a king on a mattress. I started planning the mobile clinic. I'd seen too many patients who couldn't get to a doctor. Old women catching 2 buses for a blood pressure check. Diabetic men who hadn't seen a provider in 3 years because they couldn't take off work. Kids who only saw a doctor when the school nurse sent a note home. I sat at the kitchen table one Saturday morning. Legal pad, calculator. Marcus was across from me grading game film. I wrote down every number. Startup costs, insurance, equipment, salary for 1 medical assistant, fuel, supplies. The number at the bottom was terrifying. But the number of people who needed help was worse. I got a small business loan, $47,000. I bought a used RV off Craigslist for $11,000, an old Winnebago that smelled like mothballs and someone's retirement trip. Marcus and Uncle Emeka helped me gut it on weekends. We ripped out carpet, installed cabinets. Marcus built the exam table from a YouTube video and plywood from Home Depot. Biscuit supervised from the passenger seat. Emeka's wife Yolanda painted the exterior. She put the clinic name on the side in teal letters. Okafor Community Health. I stood in the parking lot the day the sign went on. My name. On something I built. I pressed my hand against the letters and just stood there. The first month, I saw 22 patients, The second month, 41. By month 6, I had a wait list. People told their neighbors. Church ladies told their prayer groups. A pastor let me park in his lot every Thursday for free. He said, "This is God's work." I said, "This is Tuesday's work too." I hired my first employee, then a second. Revenue that year? $380,000. Not profit, revenue. After expenses, I took home $74,000. Less than my salaried job. But it was mine. The Charlotte Observer ran a feature on the clinic, front page of the local section. They took a photo of me standing in front of the RV in my white coat, my stethoscope around my neck. Dee's stethoscope. Revenue hit $1.4 million. I opened a permanent location, a real clinic, brick walls, actual waiting room, a reception desk with a computer that didn't crash every Thursday. My name on the door. Okafor Community Health. I hired 6 people. We served 4,000 patients in the first year. And here's the thing nobody tells you about success when your family isn't there to see it. There's a spot between your ribs where family is supposed to be. I learned to live with the empty space. You don't get used to it. You just learn to breathe around it. Every milestone, every win. I'd reach for my phone to call my mother, and then I'd remember. She didn't want to hear it. Now, here's the part that knocked the wind out of me. Uncle Emeka called me in September 2024. Late, almost 10 at night. I could tell from his voice something was wrong. "Janine, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." Amara had been talking, not just to my parents, to everyone. Aunties, cousins, family friends, church members. She told them I dropped out of community college, that I was jealous of her success, that I'd cut the family off because I couldn't handle being the less accomplished sister. She told Aunt Chioma I had a drinking problem. She told our cousin Nkechi that I'd been fired from a hospital. None of it was true, not one word. But it had been going on for years. Amara hadn't just lied about me once. She'd built an entire story, an architecture of deception. And she'd been maintaining it at every family gathering, every phone call, every Christmas dinner I wasn't invited to. I thought the betrayal was about money. It wasn't. The money was just the door. Behind it was something much worse. A campaign, calculated, consistent, ongoing. I sat in my car for a long time after that call. Biscuit was in the back seat. He put his chin on my shoulder. He does that when he knows. Marcus came out to the car. He didn't say anything. He just sat in the passenger seat and waited. Then Emeka texted me one more thing. "Your parents are coming to the Charlotte Healthcare Hero Awards in October. They were invited by the Hospital Foundation. They don't know you're the honoree." And then the universe did something I could not have planned. Not in 1,000 years. Thursday evening, October 17th, 2024. Overcast, 58 degrees. The kind of fall night in Charlotte where you need a jacket but you won't zip it. I was in my office at the clinic. It was 6:40 p.m. The award ceremony was at 8. I was reviewing the last applications of the week before I left. I had my white coat on the back of my chair. My stethoscope was in my coat pocket. I was wearing the dress Marcus helped me pick out. Navy blue. Simple. The application was the third one in the stack. Name, Amara Nwosu. Nwosu. That was our grandmother's maiden name. Not Okafor. I almost missed it, but the handwriting on the supplemental form was hers. I'd know it anywhere. She writes her A's like little tents, always has. Date of birth, March 14th, 1993. Amara's birthday. Education, Bachelor of Science, Biology. Johns Hopkins University. Class of 2018. No medical degree, no MD, no residency, Nothing after the bachelor's. She was applying for a patient services coordinator position. Starting salary, $38,500. My sister. The one who got $120,000. The one who was going to be a doctor. The one my parents chose. She'd dropped out of medical school, and she was applying to work at my front desk. I put the application down. I couldn't feel my hands. For about 3 seconds, I was back in that studio apartment. $87 in checking. Cigarette carpet. Biscuit in my lap. Stethoscope held up to the lamp. Then the moment passed. I closed the folder. I put it in my desk drawer. I stood up. I put on my white coat. I touched the stethoscope in my pocket. And I drove to the ceremony. The Charlotte Convention Center. The big ballroom. Round tables with white tablecloths. Water glasses that had been polished. A stage with a podium and a screen. Marcus was already there. He'd saved me a seat at the front table. Dee was next to him. She was wearing her purple suit, the one she wore to important things. Her braids were freshly done, bifocals on the beaded chain. Uncle Emeka was 2 tables back. He gave me a nod. Steady, like a man who knew what was coming and had decided to stay. The room filled up. Hospital administrators, city council members, nonprofit directors. 200 people, maybe more. I didn't see my parents at first. They were in the back, left side, near the door. My father was in a suit I'd never seen. It didn't fit quite right. The jacket was too big in the shoulders. My mother was in her church dress, the green one. She had her brooch on, the gold one she only wore to important things. They looked older. My father's hair was almost fully gray now. My mother's hands were folded in her lap the way they always were at church. Tight, like she was holding herself together. They didn't know I was the honoree. The program just said, Charlotte Healthcare Hero Award. Presentation at 8:30 p.m. At 8:27, the foundation director took the stage. She talked about the mobile clinic, the 4,000 patients served, the partnerships with 3 churches and 2 school districts, the expansion to a permanent facility, the $1.4 million in annual revenue, the feature in the Charlotte Observer. Then she said my name. Please join me in honoring this year's Charlotte Healthcare Hero, Janine Okafor, MSN, FNPC, founder of Okafor Community Health. My face was on the screen behind her. My name in white letters 3 feet tall. I stood up. The room clapped. And I looked at the back of the room. My mother's hands unfolded, slowly, like she couldn't control them. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. My father went completely still, like someone had pressed pause on him. Then his hand went to the back of my mother's chair, not for her, for balance. I watched it move through them like something physical. Recognition? Then math. Then understanding. A woman at the next table, I didn't know her, pressed her hand to her mouth. She'd seen their faces. She'd done the math too. I walked to the stage. I gave my speech. I thanked Dee. I said she taught me that nursing isn't a job. It's a decision you make every day to show up for strangers. I thanked Marcus. I said he's the kind of man who brings you coffee before you ask. I thanked Uncle Emeka. I said sometimes family isn't who raised you, it's who showed up. He was 2 tables back. He nodded once. I thanked the patients, the grandmother who rode 3 buses, the man who hadn't seen a doctor in 4 years, the little girl who asked me if stethoscopes could hear feelings. I did not mention my parents. Not once. Not by name. And I know everyone in that room who knew the Okafor family noticed. After the speech, people shook my hand. City council members, a reporter, a woman I'd treated 2 years ago on the mobile clinic. She'd driven 40 minutes to be there. She was crying. She said, "You saved my mama." I smiled. I thanked her. I held it together. Then I went to the bathroom. I locked the stall door. I pressed my hands against the tile wall. The tile was cold, solid, real. My hands were shaking. My eyes were burning. I gave myself 30 seconds. I counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, all the way to 30. Then I washed my hands. I touched the stethoscope in my pocket. I fixed my lipstick. I looked at myself in the mirror. Navy blue dress, stethoscope in my pocket, my name still on the screen out there. 3 feet tall. And I walked back out. My mother was standing in the hallway. She looked like she'd been hit by something she couldn't see. Her eyes were wet. Her brooch was slightly crooked. She was holding her purse with both hands, white knuckles. "Janine." I stopped. I didn't move toward her. "Mrs. Okafor." I watched it land. I watched it cut. Her chin trembled. Just once. I didn't call her that to be cruel. I called her that because Mom is earned. And for 8 years, she'd treated me like a stranger. My father came up behind her. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You're a nurse practitioner?" "I own the clinic, Dad." He looked at the program in his hand, then at the screen, which still had my name on it, then at me. A server near the dessert table set down a tray of coffee cups. He didn't pick it back up. He just stood there. My father said, "We didn't know." I said, "I know." That was all. I walked back to my table. Dee put her hand on my knee under the tablecloth. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. What do you think Amara did next? Option A, she told the truth about dropping out. Option B, she doubled down on the lies. Option C, she played the victim. Drop your answer in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because the next part is where everything comes crashing down. The confrontation happened 4 days later, a Sunday, at Uncle Emeka's house in Mint Hill. Neutral ground. Emeka's living room smelled like coffee and pledge. He'd cleaned. You could tell because the vacuum lines were still in the carpet. He'd set out water glasses on coasters. Everything measured, everything deliberate. My parents sat on the couch, my father in his khakis, my mother in a blouse I didn't recognize. She looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I was just bigger. Amara wasn't there yet. That was deliberate too. One conversation at a time. Uncle Emeka stood by the kitchen doorway, arms folded. He was the witness. I sat in the chair across from them. I had a folder in my lap, navy blue. I'd bought it at Staples. I didn't sit. I stood. "Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, thank you for coming." My mother flinched. Actually flinched, like I'd touched a nerve with a needle. "Janine, please," she whispered. "Don't call us that." "I'm going to say what I came to say. Then you can respond, okay?" My father nodded. Once. He was gripping his knee. I opened the folder. "In May 2016, I sat at your kitchen table. I brought my transcripts, my GPA, and a budget. I asked for help with nursing school. You told me There was no money. I let that sit for 3 seconds. In that same year, you took out $120,000 in loans for Amara's tuition at Johns Hopkins. Federal loans, private loans. You co-signed with the house as collateral. My father's jaw tightened. My mother looked at the carpet. I called you 14 times in 9 days after I found out. You answered twice. Both times you told me you and Mom had discussed it. Then you hung up. I pulled out the next sheet. I sent you 6 emails. Every one had my transcripts and clinical evaluations attached. I have read receipts. Not one was replied to. Next sheet. I wrote you a 4-page letter. I mailed it priority. It cost me $7.35. It came back 10 days later. Unopened. I held it up, the envelope. I'd kept it. My mother's handwriting. Return to sender. I recognized your handwriting, Mrs. Okafor. The church cursive. My mother pressed a fist against her mouth. Her shoulders were shaking. When I asked why you chose Amara, you said, and I'll quote it because I've never forgotten it, Amara has more potential. We had to make a choice. I closed the folder. That's not an accusation. Those are facts, dates, dollar amounts, call logs. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to read you the receipt. The room was quiet. Uncle Emeka hadn't moved. My father tried first. Janine, this isn't the place for. You had 8 years to choose a place. You chose silence. I'm choosing here. He had nothing after that. His mouth closed. His hand went back to his knee. Then Uncle Emeka stepped forward. He had his own folder, brown, thicker than mine. There's more, he said, and you need to see it. He placed printouts on the coffee table, screenshots, text messages, timestamps highlighted in yellow, from Amara. To Aunt Chioma. Janine dropped out. She couldn't handle it. Please don't bring it up to Mom and Dad. It's a sore subject. From Amara to Cousin Nkechi. I hate to say it, but Janine's been drinking. I don't think she's working. Mom is devastated. From Amara to a family group chat, one my number was never added to. Please pray for my sister. She cut us off because she's jealous of my career. We've tried everything. Emeka had 12 screenshots. 12. All time-stamped. All from different months. A steady drip of lies over 4 years. My mother picked up the first printout. Her hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. Her lips moved as she read. Slowly, word by word. My father picked up the second one. Then the third. His face changed. Not all at once, piece by piece, like a mask being pulled off from the edges. I had never seen my father cry. Not once. Not in 34 years. Not at his mother's funeral. Not when the car broke down and he had to walk 4 miles to work. Not when the hospital cut his hours. Never. He cried now. Quietly. One hand over his eyes. His shoulders curved forward like something had collapsed inside his chest. My mother kept reading, page after page, her chin trembling. Then the front door opened. Amara. She walked in wearing jeans and a cardigan. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back. She looked thinner than the last time I'd seen her. Much thinner. She saw the printouts on the table and stopped in the doorway. Her first move was the victim play. I'd expected it. What is this? Are you ambushing me? She looked at my parents. Mom, Dad, she's doing this to tear the family apart. She was looking at them the way she always did. Eyes wide, chin tilted down. The little sister who needed protecting. It used to work every time. Uncle Emeka didn't raise his voice. He just pointed at the coffee table. Sit down, Amara. Read what's on the table. I don't need to read. Sit down. She sat. She crossed her arms. She didn't look at the printouts. She looked at me, waiting for me to crack, waiting for me to yell or cry or give her an opening. I didn't give her one. The second gambit came 30 seconds later. Deflection. Okay, fine. So Janine's successful. Good for her. She waved a hand at the printouts like they were junk mail. But what kind of sister shows up after 8 years and puts her family on trial? This is supposed to be a family, not a courtroom. She looked at my father, waiting for him to agree. Waiting for the old pattern. Amara speaks, Dad nods, subject closed. He didn't nod. My mother spoke for the first time in 10 minutes. Her voice was raw, scraped, like she'd been swallowing glass.
Because we blocked her number. Because you told us to.
5 seconds of silence. I counted. Amara's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That was the moment. The first time my mother chose me. Even if it was 8 years late. She chose the truth over the performance. And I could see it cost her. Her hands were shaking. But she said it, out loud, in front of everyone. Amara recovered fast. She always did. Her eyes went hard. The cardigan, the bare face, it was all costume. Underneath, she was exactly who she'd always been. Third gambit. The attack. The real one. The one that comes out when everything else fails. You want to know the truth? Fine. She leaned forward. You were always the boring one, Janine. Mom and Dad didn't choose me because I'm smarter. They chose me because you were invisible. You were invisible before I got a single dollar. That's not my fault. The room went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silent that has weight. I could hear the ice maker in Emeka's kitchen. I could hear a neighbor's lawnmower 2 houses down. I could hear my own pulse. A woman, Emeka's wife, Yolanda, was standing in the kitchen doorway. She set down the serving spoon she was holding. Slowly. She pressed her hand flat against her chest. She didn't move. She didn't blink. I looked at Amara. I didn't lean forward. I didn't raise my voice. I kept my hands folded in my lap. You dropped out of Johns Hopkins Medical School after your 2nd year. You never told Mom and Dad. I paused. Let that one land. You changed your last name to Nuosu, Grandma's maiden name, and applied for a patient services coordinator position. Starting salary, $38,500 a year. Another pause. At my clinic. My clinic, Amara. The one I built with the nothing they gave me. Amara's face went white. Not red. White. Like all the blood left at once. Her hands gripped the arm of the chair. Her knuckles matched her face. My father looked at Amara. His face was still wet. You dropped out? She didn't answer. She was staring at a spot on the carpet. Amara. His voice was harder now. The grief turning into something else.
You dropped out of medical school? It wasn't. I was going to $120,000. My father's voice cracked on the last word. We put the house up. Your mother's house. The house we've lived in for 27 years. He stood up, then sat back down, like his body didn't know what to do with what it was feeling. You told us you were in residency. You told us you were doing rotations. Amara's eyes were closed. Her lips were pressed together so tight they'd gone white. The persona she'd worn for 15 years was lying on that coffee table with the screenshots. And without an audience to perform for, she had nothing. No smile, no science fair trophy, no grade point average. Just a woman in a cardigan who'd been pretending for so long she'd forgotten what was underneath. My mother looked at the printouts, then at Amara, then at me, then at the wall, like she was adding up a bill she couldn't afford. Then she said it. Quietly. Not a question, a conviction. What have we done? She wasn't asking. She was sentencing herself. And she was including herself in the sentence. That mattered. She didn't say, "What has Amara done?" She said, "What have we done?" Because she knew. She knew this wasn't just about Amara's lies. It was about the soil those lies grew in. Soil she'd been tending for 30 years. I picked up my folder. I straightened my stethoscope. I'd worn it on purpose under my jacket, like a talisman. I touched the bell. Listen first. I walked to the door, spine straight. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. But I heard it behind me. My father's voice. Barely a whisper. Talking to no one. Talking to the room. Talking to 30 years of choices. What have we done? Yolanda was still in the kitchen doorway. She hadn't moved. Her hand was still on her chest. She met my eyes as I passed. She gave me one small nod. That nod said everything. 2 weeks later, first Sunday in November, I met my parents at a coffee shop on South Tryon. Not their house, not mine. Neutral ground. My terms. Marcus drove me. He waited in the car. Biscuit was in the back seat. Marcus had the window cracked so Biscuit could stick his nose out. The coffee shop smelled like espresso and cinnamon. It was playing Sade. Quietly. Like background music for hard conversations. My parents were already there. Same side of the table. My father had a glass of water he wasn't drinking. My mother's purse was in her lap again. White knuckles. I sat down. I had a list written on an index card. 3 items. Here's what I need. And none of this is optional. My mother nodded. My father stared at his water. 1. Family counseling. Not once. Ongoing. Weekly. With a licensed therapist who specializes in family systems. I've already identified 3 in Charlotte.
You pick one. I'll attend separately at first. My mother nodded again. 2. A written acknowledgement. Sent to every family member Amara lied to. Every one. Aunt Chioma, Nkechi, the family group chat, the church prayer group, every person who was told I dropped out. Every person who was told I was jealous or drinking or fired, you correct every lie. In writing. My father looked up. Janine, can we skip that part? That's public. The lie was public. The correction has to be too. He flinched. His jaw worked like he was chewing something that wouldn't break down. My mother put her hand on his arm, softly. Victor, please. A long pause. 20 seconds? 30? Then a small nod. The kind of nod that costs a man like my father everything. His pride, his image, his story about who his family was. One word. Fine. 3. Time. No shortcuts, no big gestures, no speeches. Apologies expire. Show me with time. My mother wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Not a tissue. Her hand. Can I say something? She asked. I waited. I saw your name on that screen. 3 feet tall. And all I could think was, I never bought you a stethoscope. I never helped you with a single application. You did all of that. And I was sitting in the back row. She stopped. Her voice broke. I don't know how to earn you back, but I'd like to try. I didn't respond right away. I took a sip of my coffee. It was too hot. I set it down. I'd like that too. But I need you to understand something. Words have been cheap in this family. They always have been. Show me with time. She nodded. I met Amara the next day. Same coffee shop, different table. I got there first. I ordered a green tea. I don't even like green tea. I just needed something to hold. She walked in looking different. Not the cardigan costume from Emeka's house, not the Johns Hopkins armor from before. She was wearing a plain t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, no jewelry. Her nails were bitten down to nothing. Her posture looked like a question mark, like her body was asking something her mouth couldn't. She sat down. She ordered water. Didn't touch it. She didn't try the victim play. She didn't deflect. She didn't attack. She sat there for about 10 seconds, looking at her hands. Then she said one thing. I told myself that if they focused on your problems, they'd stop seeing mine. I waited. I didn't react. I let the sentence sit on the table between us like something she'd set down and couldn't pick back up. I wasn't even good at med school, Janine. First semester, I failed biochemistry. Failed it. I'd never failed anything in my life. I didn't know what to do. I hated it. I hated every single day. The lectures, the labs, the smell of the cadaver room. I'd go back to my apartment and sit on the floor and cry. She took a breath. But I couldn't tell them, because they'd already spent the money. They'd put the house up. How do you tell your parents you wasted $120,000? So I just stopped going. And then I had to make up a reason why I wasn't a doctor. And the easiest reason was you. She looked at her hands again. The bitten nails, the bare fingers. That's not an excuse, I know that. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I sat with that. I believed her. Not because it made me feel better, because it was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. Maybe the most honest thing she'd said to anyone. I believe in the possibility of change, I told her. That's all I can offer right now. She nodded. Didn't push, didn't perform. That was new. I didn't forgive her. I want to be clear about that. Understanding is not absolution. Amara had run a 4-year campaign to erase me from my own family. Knowing why she did it doesn't undo the fact that she did it. But I left the door open, a crack, and only I decide when it opens wider. The Healthcare Hero Award ceremony had been in October, but they held a smaller recognition dinner in November. Community leaders, local press, 30 people in a private room at a restaurant on East Boulevard. I gave a short speech. I talked about the mobile clinic, about the 4,000 patients, about Dee, who taught me that nursing isn't about medicine, it's about listening. My parents were there, back row. Emeka had seated them there, not me. But I knew. Near the end, I looked up from my notes. And sometimes, the ones you're born to find their way back. Late, but here. I didn't look at them. I didn't need to. After the dinner, my mother approached Marcus. He was standing by the coat check, holding my jacket. Marcus, I'm Grace. I know who you are, Mrs. Okafor. I owe you an apology. For not being there. For all of it. Marcus is 6'3". He coaches teenage boys for a living. He looked down at my mother, 5'2" in her church shoes, and said something I'll never forget. With all due respect, Mrs. Okafor, you should have been a lot of things. But we're here now. She nodded, and for the first time I saw her accept something without trying to manage it. A Sunday morning, May. The jasmine outside our window is almost done. The light coming through the kitchen is warm and gold and makes everything look softer than it is. I'm at the counter, rolling biscuit dough. The kitchen smells like flour and butter, and the coffee Marcus made too strong again. He always makes it too strong. I've stopped correcting him. He's at the table, reading an actual newspaper. The Charlotte Observer. He does this every Sunday. He says screens make his eyes tired. I think he just likes the rustling sound. Biscuit is under the table, asleep. One ear twitching, dreaming about something. Probably squirrels. Every few minutes, his back leg kicks once. Marcus calls it his dream sprint. The stethoscope is in the living room, in a shadow box on the wall above the bookcase. Listen first. The engraving is hard to read now from across the room, but I know it's there. I always know it's there. The doorbell rings. Biscuit lifts his head. One bark, then back to sleep. He's 10 now. He understood the assignment years ago. I open the door. My mother is standing there holding a casserole dish with both hands. She's holding it the way someone holds something fragile, like she's never carried a casserole in her life. She might not have. I don't remember her ever bringing food to anyone's house. That was always someone else's job. My father is behind her. He's holding a bag from the grocery store. Inside, I can see a carton of orange juice and a bunch of bananas. Simple. Wrong, probably. I didn't ask for bananas. But he's here, holding a bag, trying. And then I see it, in my mother's other hand, a small Tupperware container. Chin Chin, the fried pastry she used to make every Christmas, the one she only made for Amara, the one I'd ask for every year and she'd say, "There's only enough for the table, Janine." She brought Chin Chin. For me. She didn't say anything about it. She just held it out, like it was nothing, like it wasn't the loudest thing she'd ever said to me. I took it. "Come in." My father stepped inside. He stood in the hallway for a moment, looking around, taking it in. The photos on the wall, the bookcase, the shadow box. He walked over to the shadow box, looked at the stethoscope, read the engraving. His lips moved. Then he turned around. "Can I help with anything?" 53 years old. First time he'd ever asked me that. In any house, in any room. I handed him plates. He counted them out, set them on the table. 4. 4, he said. To nobody, just to the room. 4, I said. My mother was in the kitchen doorway. She was watching the light come through the window. Or maybe she was watching the photos on the fridge. Or maybe she was just standing in my house for the first time and trying to figure out where she fit. Your home is beautiful, Janine. She wasn't talking about the house. I know that. She knows I know that. And neither of us said anything else about it. We ate. It was not a good brunch. The biscuits were a little dry. I'd over-kneaded the dough because I was nervous. The casserole had too much salt. My mother's hand must have been shaking when she measured. Her chin was over-fried. She'd been standing at the stove too long, afraid to walk away. The orange juice was from concentrate. Marcus poured it like it was champagne. Nobody mentioned Amara. She wasn't there. She'd been invited. She said she wasn't ready. That was honest. I respected it. One day, maybe. But not today. Today was about the 4 people at this table and the long, hard road it took to get all 4 chairs filled. The conversation was careful, awkward. My father complimented the coffee twice. Marcus said, "Thank you," both times, like it was the first. My mother asked about basketball season and then forgot to listen to the answer. She was looking at a photo on the fridge. Me in my white coat, on the mobile clinic. She was looking at it the way you look at something you missed. Not something new, something you should have seen all along. There were silences that lasted too long. Marcus filled some of them. Biscuit filled the rest by sighing loudly from under the table. Dogs don't hold grudges. Sometimes I envy that. It was, by any reasonable standard, a mediocre brunch. It was the best meal of my life. After they left, Marcus washed the dishes. I dried. Biscuit was back under the table, full from a piece of biscuit Marcus thought I didn't see him drop. I put the last plate away. I looked at the shadow box. Listen first. I'm not closing the door, but I'm the one who decides when it opens, how wide, and who walks through. That's new for me. For most of my life, I stood outside doors other people controlled, waiting, knocking, hoping someone would let me in. I don't knock anymore. I build my own doors. If you see yourself in my story, if you've ever been the invisible one, the firstborn who got the scraps, the one who built everything from the nothing they gave you and got no credit for any of it, I want you to know something. I didn't get revenge. I became someone who didn't need it. That stethoscope sat in a drawer for 2 years before Dee gave it to me. Secondhand, scratched, someone else's name rubbed off the tubing. But it worked. It always worked, just like me. Sometimes it takes a long winter. Sometimes it takes 8 years of cold shoulders and returned letters and lies told in group chats you weren't added to. But what's yours was always yours. They just couldn't see it yet. And when you build something real, with your own hands, your own hours, your own stubborn refusal to disappear, nobody can take the credit. Nobody can rewrite that story. The building is standing. Your name is on the door. And the people who doubted you are sitting in the back row, watching. That's not revenge. That's architecture. If this story resonated with you, leave me a comment. Tell me, what would you have done? Would you have opened that door? And if you want more stories like this, check the description for one I think you'll love just as much. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.